Yep.
Okay. And he has been working with top companies, and he's working a lot into, he's actually doing his master's also right now. He has more than 5 years of experience with him, and majorly on AI, ML, and UI, UX. And I'm not going to tell a lot about him. He is going to introduce himself, I know. Okay. But he has been a very good and very important part of the company for some time now. And today he's going to uh, in, uh, introduce you guys to the design. Many people here they don't know what is UI, UX, what is Figma, and that is very important part into our IT industry, at least having the basic knowledge about it. So today he's going to start your journey into UI UX. So let's welcome him, guys. A lot of people are shy here. It is.
Yep.
Yeah.
I can
Okay.
tell.
Yeah. Welcome, Idris. Let's start the session.
Yep. No worries. So everyone, I think we should get started. Ma'am has fairly introduced all of my background already. I have been into training and creation of learning programs for more than 5 years now. And it's the first time I'm conducting a session here with Codroid Hub after being a part of it for more than a couple of months now, I think. So, yeah, for today, we will be taking basically an introduction towards interface and user experience design. It's a really big field, okay? And this whole lecture of today, it will not be enough to basically do everything that we do in UI UX design, right? But we definitely will, it definitely will serve as a really good introduction to you guys. And this is the place where you can, for example, understand a couple of differences between real design and what we do in real life as well. Okay. Just before we start off the session, I'll just set some ground rules as well. I keep this for every single session I take. I've been training, like I told you, for more than 5 years now. Every session I go to, I always say this first: learning does not happen one way. If it's a monologue, if I'm speaking and I'm just giving instruction, learning doesn't happen like that. Okay. I want to be interrupted at places. I want you guys to stop me when there's a question, when you feel like you're not understanding things or you're not connecting to the material properly. Okay. We're spending our time today on a Saturday, and I want this to be productive as well. Okay. So my time is valuable too, and I'm pretty sure your time is just as valuable, if not more. Okay. So let's make good use of these 2 hours, and whatever I'm going to cover, I want you guys to please keep attention. Maybe have a bottle of water with you as well, okay? Because things can get really dry sometimes when we are learning about design. Um, and I'm pretty sure most of you guys are from the tech side, right? Computer science, but tech side. You've only thought of coding as school, not design. So what I'm basically asking you guys to do is please be very attentive. Okay. And if you feel like you're not connecting to the material, please ask me, stop me and ask questions, and keep asking me what we are doing and what exactly we are looking at every point in time. Okay. Now, first of all, before before we set foot into this territory of UI UX design, I'll just start off with this. First, understand that I have started this whole slide, the first slide, as UX UI design. Okay. Generally, what do we call it? User interface and user experience, right? We say UI UX design, right? But that's not exactly what happens in real life. In real life, UX is the field that contains UI. Okay. So you can basically think of it like this. Okay. So user experience is this whole field where you're basically thinking about how users are experiencing things. And within that, user interface is basically a small part. Okay. UI is a small part of this overall user experience field. That's how we like to look at it. Okay. So that's just about the introduction part. Now, what will we be doing in this whole session? I have tried my best to compress a lot of information in 2 hours. Okay. But then again, I also wanted for you guys to take something away from this session. Okay. And the only physical skill that I have focused on for today's session is this wireframing. If you don't learn anything from today's session, which sometimes happens for some people, right? But at least if you learn wireframing, if you understand what wireframing is, why we do it, and how we exactly implement it, then I think we will have understood and gotten something good out of the session already. Okay. Now, what exactly will we be covering in this whole 2 hour session? We'll first start off with a brief introduction to the field. Okay. Then we'll understand what exactly UI UX design is. We'll understand the benefits of implementing UX UI design. Then we'll understand this process of wireframing that I was talking to you about. Then we'll also try to implement it on our own. We'll try to implement wireframing and understand how design is incorporated in real life processes, development processes. And after that, we'll have a small design challenge to take a look at. Okay. First of all, I want you guys to look at the screen and tell me, what do you think this is? Everybody will write maybe one definition of what they're seeing. Just try to describe what you're seeing. You can unmute yourself and start speaking, raise your hands and start speaking. Or, like at every point, if I ask a question, you guys can raise a hand and I will basically name who can go ahead. Or you guys can use chat as well. Be very engaging in chat. Okay. There's no restrictions on what you can write, what you can say. So, whatever it is, you can paste it in chat as well. I want you guys to tell me what you're seeing on the screen. Try to describe it in your own words. Also, like ma'am also hinted, you don't have to be shy. Okay, this is a learning session. It's not going to be like a corporate training. So you don't have to kind of restrict yourselves. What are you seeing on the screen? Try to describe this. Yes, Abhishek, go ahead.
काइंड ऑफ आर्ट आई
Yep,
थिंक क्योंकि सर एक आर्टिस्ट अपने आर्ट को दिखाने में मतलब समझाने की कोशिश करता है कि इसमें है क्या बट एक डिजाइन कंटेन करता है रिक्वायरमेंट्स हमारी नीड को कंटेन करता है
good. बहुत अच्छे. Anyone else? Anyone else wants to describe? If you guys are not comfortable saying things out loud, please write things in chat. Thanks, Ashwini. Okay. Others as well. Please fill the chat with answers. Okay. At least I want that engagement. It cannot be a monologue. I do not take sections like that. Yes, ma'am. All the others, Akash, Imansh, Neha, Deepika. I have my data analytics students here as well. That's great. All the others as well. Good answers. ठीक है. I basically want you guys to describe. Is there any meaning you can derive out of it? I think most people have already something out of this. Okay, this is art. Okay, but what exactly is it saying? Web of lines. Okay, good. A complex art. Fine. Different paintings scrambled together. Good answer. Others. War. That's a really good take, Abhishek. That's a really good take. ठीक है. Abstract, yes. So Jackson Pollock is this really great artist, okay? His paintings sell in millions. This is one of his paintings, and this is also like sold in millions. And these ones that you're seeing right now also are one of those, okay? Those paintings. Now, anyone looking at these paintings or this art would say, or go on to say, मैं भी कर सकता हूँ. I can also do such a thing. And then, they can claim that this painting would be worth millions or so. But is it like that? क्या हमेशा ऐसा हो सकता है कि we can build or create something like this and call it worth millions? Maybe, maybe not, right? But ultimately, what art is abstract. Okay, all art, all artistic elements that people basically observe or enjoy watching, all of them are abstract. And there's always ambiguity in the meaning. Okay. I hope you guys understand what ambiguity means. The meaning of art is always ambiguous. Anyone can interpret art in their own way. I saw some really good answers in the chat as well, right? So, for example, Abhishek named this painting as war. So somehow this can reflect a situation like war as well. So Abhishek interpreted it like that. Somebody else interpreted it like a web. Okay, web of lines. Now that's what the interesting thing about art is. Art can be interpreted subjectively. When we say subjectively, what does it mean? It means every other person will take out their own meaning out of it. Okay. Similarly, all these paintings that I've kept here, all of them can be interpreted by each one of us like we deem fit. जैसे हमें लगेगा वैसे हम इसको interpret करेंगे because it is art. And most times, what happens is artists, the meanings that artists intend, those are not always conveyed through their art. Okay, because people can, it's like, for example, poetry. An artist or a poet basically says something, okay, and different people will take out different meanings out of it. Now, all of this that I described here, all of this was art, okay, but design in itself is deliberate, okay. Like I think Abhishek also correctly specified what design basically implicates. We take design as something where our requirements are met. Art does not have to, art does not always satisfy any requirements, but design does. Design has to achieve some objectives. Okay. So purposeful solutions is what design is for. Art is always there to question, right? But design in itself are purposeful solutions, solutions that you have created after deliberate thought processes, which takes us to the point. Design does not always require visual appeal. It's not always about is it visually appealing or not. Okay. Design, although in today's day and age, we take design as something that is innately beautiful. Okay. You'll only call something as good design if it looks pretty, if it looks aesthetic, but that's not it. When we talk about design, It basically means you're crafting solutions to problems and you're doing that in some defined manner. Okay. So like you can see here, design solves problems, art expresses emotions, or art questions reality. Okay. That's what basically the difference between these two is. That's why these whole set of slides is named as design versus art. Then intentional design improves usability. Usability is a big term to have here. I do not want to use terms like these just in the first session, just in a session where we are basically starting to learn about design. But still, I wanted to keep some hints of these things here. Now, for this, I've also set up here some examples here. Okay. So you have Spotify versus you can think of applications that have messy user interfaces. Okay. Sometimes when we start to build our own applications, there are a couple of people here as well. Basically, our whole team at Codroid Hub that works with software design is here. So sometimes what happens is if you start building an application, right? You start off thinking screens, okay? Then whatever comes to your mind, whatever button you think of, you just create it. Whatever definition or whatever text you think of, you basically write it. And you basically fill your screen with the whole thing. And then you think about, okay, how can I now make it look pretty, look nice, look aesthetic? Then okay, let's add an image in the background and maybe everything will look really nice now. It doesn't work like that. Okay. It will always mean that the design you'll create based on all of these things, okay, based on things that you're just filling in content in your screens, it will lead to applications that are very messy, that don't have a good design. Okay. We'll talk about what good design means in a bit as well. But for now, आप प्लीज ये quotation देखिए. Look and observe this quotation from Steve Jobs. Okay. So Steve Jobs, in his introduction to the Mac back in the 1960s, was it? No, 1980s or something like that. I don't exactly remember the date when he introduced Mac to this world, but in his demonstration, in his demo, he basically spoke this quote. Okay. He basically said that the design that Apple is investing in, it's not just about how it looks like and feels like. Because Mac, when it came in, it looked really pretty compared to the computers that were available at that point in time, right? Mac looked really good compared to the computers that were available at that time. Baki computers, they look like boxes, they look like machines. Okay. But Mac came in and it had some visual appeal as well. But then that's what um, Steve Jobs basically mentioned in that demonstration. He basically said it's not just how it looks like, how it feels like, it will also be how it works. Okay. So when you think about design, it's not going to be just the artistic appeal of it, the visual appeal of it. When you think about design, it will be exactly how it works. Okay. And in UI UX design, we break this in two different parts. Okay. And for this, I will share another screen. I hope the screen is visible to everyone. Yes. I'm seeing some other answers now as well. Emotions cannot always be organized neatly. Aditya, okay. Then Drishti says random lines of paint. Badal says messed up art. Himanshi says expressing their imaginations. Huh, you guys are all correct. Aditya, I don't exactly agree with it. But yeah, you're right when you said it cannot always be organized. But yeah, we cannot always organize our emotions neatly. That's true. But there are ways we can still give organization to our thoughts and feelings. Anyway, So what I was basically hinting at was when Steve Jobs basically said design will be how it works, it basically broke this whole paradigm of digital design into two things. When you talk about digital design, now you'll be talking about two different things. One will be functionality. By the way, I also want to mention something here, okay? So, software design in itself, software design in itself is a whole subject in computer science, right? In which you basically learn about how to manage software projects. You learn about the methodologies that you implement. You learn about the tools that you use in software design, right? And you also learn about basically strategies. You guys would have heard about agile, waterfall, and all these other methodologies of design as well, right? See, when we started off with this whole change in the software design industry, we started off when we basically took UI UX design as its own field. Okay, when you UX UI or UI UX design came into existence, it basically changed our whole thought process of this software design. Because now we were not only taking the functionalities in perspective. Okay, back in the day, people who used to develop the software were the people who used to give it shape as well. So the front end developers were the ones who used to set up back end too. Okay, so there was not this distinction between who will develop the face of the software, who will set up the functionality of the software. But now that software evolved, we like started going into digital realm more extensively. We saw more and more software coming in. There needed to be a distinction between the two. Okay, eventually we had a front end and a back end part in what software development. So in our software development, we basically broke software development down into these two parts, right? But then again, we found out that this front end part, right? This front end part is actually more important. While definitely the back end part does add to the functionality, nothing will work without back end, right? But we eventually realized that this front end part is more important. Why? Because this is the side that faces users. And if your users are not happy with your software, then why are you doing the whole thing at all? Right? If your software doesn't have users, no matter how good the backend or the functionality of the software is, nobody is using it. What's the fun? Right? So that's when we realize like front end actually needs more work and actually needs more research. And that's where UI UX as a field developed, evolved, and became important as well. Okay. So coming back to the part where I was basically telling you what happened to digital design back in the day. Okay. Why we basically started when we started basically thinking about design is how it works. So we broke down the design of softwares into two different things. One is functionality and another is aesthetics. Not only this, okay, digital design, digital softwares have evolved so much that we have eventually started thinking of them as products as well, right? We take software as a product now, which is why You have product management as a full on well developed role, product management, product managers, right? Even some vague roles like product designers exist as well. And in most of these jobs, there's a UI UX designer at the back end. Okay. There is someone who has spent a lot of time learning about user interface and user experience design. We'll come to this in a bit. Okay. I have some other content for this. So, combining these 2 points, explaining why, what basically I meant here. When we think about the design of software or digital products, okay, or digital products, now we think and we work for two possibilities, two different things. Okay. One is functionality and another is aesthetics. Now, I hope this is already understandable. In functionality, you think about whether your core requirements are being fulfilled. So so whatever requirements the client had set up for your software, are those being fulfilled or not? Whether those requirements are being met or not. Similarly, in functionality, you will also think about whether all the tasks or user flows that your app or software is responsible for are seamless or not. Okay. So the core functionality, where you're basically talking about the actual architecture of the application, basically the coding part as well, architecture part. All of this comes in functionality. While the aesthetics part does what? It includes what kind of visual design to set up, what kind of colors to use, typography to use, what style are you using, which brand tone are you focusing on. All of these came in the part of aesthetics. Now, when you combine both of these two things, you get the whole design for any software or digital product. Okay. So, what I'm basically saying is if you are to design, if you are to solve a digital problem through a digital solution, you'll basically always, in all cases, be thinking about these two things, either functionality or aesthetics. Okay. And in UI UX design, you have well defined series of steps, processes that you can employ to basically achieve your goals. Okay, those processes as well we will try to touch in today's session. But overall, I basically wanted to give you guys a look and feel of what we are dealing with. Okay, when we talk about UI UX design, we are not talking about pretty stuff. We're not just talking about this. Okay, all of this definitely is a part of user interface. Okay, when you say UI design, user interface design, it is a part of the front end philosophy, right? So a part of like what the users will finally see. That's what UI design is about, right? And in this, we talk about a lot of different things. Okay. Some of those we will touch in today's session as well. It's not possible to cover everything just in a 2 hour session. Okay. But I'll give you a perspective about this in with this as well. So generally, when I take UI UX boot camps, right? These UI UX boot camps are designed to take any beginner and turn them into intermediate experts. Okay, take them from beginners to intermediate or experts. So it depends whether they'll reach the intermediate expertise or the actual expert expertise. Whether they'll reach the first one or the second one will depend upon how much information they have when they're starting. Okay, how much they have already worked with design when they're starting. But it generally always takes about 6 months to take someone from a beginner to an expert. Okay, this is the scale of design as a field. Even in boot camps that I personally, like myself as a trainer, do as well, in those as well, at least it takes about 6 months for anyone to turn themselves from a beginner to a good designer. Okay, so at this point, we basically will call them good designers. We'll not call them expert designers either, even if their skills have reached to the expertise level as well. So what this basically means is they know about some expert level content or some expert level concepts as well. Okay, but at least within these 6 months, we try to turn them into good designers, is what happens when they go through a whole program, a whole curriculum of user interface and experience design. Now, in user interface design, we talk about a lot of things generally, just so that you guys at least have some idea of what I'm talking about. Uh, I'll talk about these. So, which colors to use? Okay, and colors are always defined by a color palette or a brand color palette. If you're working with a startup, okay, in most cases you might not have a brand color palette. You'll have to define some colors yourself, right? And then brand color palette is one thing. You also have to think about what kind of a design system you're using these colors on. Let's not focus on that right now. So what colors you'll be keeping in your screens, then what kind of typography you will be using. What is typography? Typography basically means the style of the text that you're using. What text, which font, which typeface will you be using? Okay, typography in itself can take a good class of 2 hours or 3 hours. Similarly, colors and typography are not the only thing that define user interface design or the user interfaces that people see. After that, styles also come into picture, or style guides that we follow. Style guides are basically small documents in which you define properly what kind of elements you can use for your brand. Okay, which means you can use those kind of shapes all over your user interface. Okay, and sometimes these style guides actually define some shapes as well. Okay, some shapes or patterns or layouts, and all of these things are basically related to a particular brand. if and if we were lucky enough to have some classes on style guides, I'll explain to you guys how style guides can be prepared and how we can ensure everybody in a team properly follows those style guides as well. Okay. um yeah, so this is basically UI design with a gist of like UX design, what you basically think and focus on. Even though I have understood and seen that most people that are already developing applications or website in our company as well already are doing this to some capacity, okay? But you're not doing it in a capacity an actual design team would, okay? That I've also seen, but still you guys are getting the job done. It's kind of commendable, okay, that you guys are getting the job done without actually having proper guidelines on all of these things. That is commendable. But still, in order to actually be efficient workers, be efficient people, like in design, you will have to think about how you can develop your own color palette, how you can set up a proper typography, how you can set up some proper style guides as well. Okay. To some extent, we're already doing that in Codewrite Hub as well. but there's a lot of work that needs to be done for that as well. And if you guys learn about design more and more, um, sooner or later you'll be at that point, okay, where you can basically develop your own style guides for CodeWrite Hub as well, and that will save so much work for you. Anyway, this was the part where I was basically talking to you about the two major parts of design process. Okay, any digital product design will have two different things. There'll be functionality and there'll be aesthetics. Okay, you'll be focusing on the requirements, the things that the application needs to get done in the functionality, and in aesthetics, you'll be thinking about the visual design, how the app looks and feels, what the tone the application is basically setting, all of those things. And I also basically mentioned that initially software design did not have these distinctions of roles. The person who used to create the website face used to set up the backend as well. But since digital product design has evolved and has become really good now, we have distinction between these two roles. We have a separate front end, a separate back end, and we eventually learned that front end needs more work because users are closely related to the front end part. So we need more research to keep things, only things that are basically purposeful, okay, that have some purpose to serve on a screen. So all these things come in user interface design. Let's talk about them in a bit. But basically, what to show to the users is what we basically decide in the front end design. And for the front end design, I basically also told you that it all starts from user interface design, okay, which is a part of the UI UX collective. And in that, you basically specify what colors to use, what typography, what style guides to use. And also, I forgot about a really important thing, content. The content that we use on our user interfaces, that also is set up in user interface design only. We have some pretty well defined processes of UX design. Okay. And I'll explain them to you and I'll relate them to software development in the later parts of the lecture as well. Any questions so far? Any issues?
No, sir.
I hope you guys are not feeling sleepy and things are going pretty fine so far, right?
Yes, sir.
Great. Okay. Let's move on. So yeah, that was about how it feels. Okay. Now, moving on into this part, this concept of good design. What exactly is good design? What can you call good in design, and what will you call bad in design? There are two different things in your on your screen right now. I want you guys to do what we call A/B testing in UI UX design. Okay, either choose A or choose B. What will you choose and why? Everybody will give their answers, starting from Abhishek. Yes.
I think B is a good design. Um, A is better in aesthetics.
Okay. What will you choose? Which one will you choose
B,
out of these two?
B, sir.
B. Okay. We have one vote for B. Abhishek, what about you? Which one will you choose? Ashwini will choose the first one because more aesthetic and colors are also good, which makes things easy to use. Good. I only want you guys to choose one of these two objects and then define or tell me why. Don't just give me the options, guys. Okay, it's just like ticking off. Like follow it up with some reasoning as well. Why exactly are you choosing it? Everybody closely related to software design or digital design here, I want to tell you guys something. It's very easy sometimes to choose things, okay? It's very easy to choose things. Like you have a choice in front of you right now. You can very well say, I'll go with A. But it takes a designer, it takes design mentality, design thinking to basically answer why, to basically question why am I choosing this? At every step of software design, in UI UX design, you'll always be questioning yourself. If you're a good designer, right? If you're a good designer, you'll be questioning yourself constantly. Why am I taking a certain decision? What is the reason I'm keeping a button on the screen? Is it really necessary to keep this button on the screen? Why am I using blue color for it? Why not white? Why not black? What is the reasoning behind choosing this certain color for my color palette? Does it actually relate to my company? Or are there any specific connotations of that color, meanings, or basically something related to that color which relates to my brand? Do you understand? Thinking about reasons is what makes a designer different, which is why I want you guys to follow your choices with the reason, like Ashwini did. Ashwini mentioned the first one, then she also followed it with the reason because it's aesthetic. That's fine. It looks pretty. It will look really nice in a kitchen, and then colors are also good and easy to use. Right now, this particular setup only shows black and white. It will definitely be a really good aesthetic. uh, Maybe in a special case you might color these like spice bottles in a really good color scheme as well, okay, maybe to represent different spices. And there is this these transparent ones as well. So yeah, choose and then with the reason. Abhishek says B because of better functionality. Good. That is very precise and very accurate. A, more aesthetic, but I choose B because of ease of use. So most of the people here are agreeing that B is more easy to use. But is ease of use always a preference? What do you guys think? Is ease of use always a preference to you? Or do you sometimes prefer aesthetics as well? Because these two can sometimes clash. Sometimes what will happen is these two can clash for you. B for functionality, as clear purpose, big holes for larger spices, small holes for powders. Good. बहुत अच्छे आदित्य. Abhishek, it depends according to the situation. A is art, B is good design, according to me. ठीक है. Most of the answers are on point. Whenever I post a question, I want everybody to be a part of it. Okay, we have about 20 other people in this call. I want 20 answers every time there's a question. Okay, ठीक है. As a UI UX designer, you'll always be asked for things like these. If, for example, it's an interview where you're being tested for, your eye for good design, you'll always choose the second one because a UI UX designer knows that things should work first. Okay, if things are working, then you can think about making them nicer, making them look look prettier. The second bottle, it has different sizes of these holes as well. Okay, so which means basically if these small holes are not working, the larger one will. And second, most important one, these bottles will not require labels. You will not require labels like salt, like sugar, or something like these, something like that, right? But on the other hand, even though these spice bottles look really nice, look really pretty, you'll only be able to exactly understand whether this is salt or sugar once you pour it on your food. Okay, imagine you're eating a savory dish, you need more salt for it, but you basically are pouring salt and instead of salt, pepper comes out, right? So you are expecting the dish to be more salty, but now it will burn your tongue. So functionality is always the first thing we take care of in design. In good design, you'll always think about functionality first, and then you will move towards aesthetic or something looking visually pretty. So yeah, this is one example. Let's move onwards. When UI UX design started off as a whole new field, there is this really interesting person called Don Norman. Okay, he's called the father of UI UX design. He started off his career with Apple, which is why Apple started their focus wholly on design first, which took Apple from being just another tech company to the most profitable company on the face of planet Earth, just because they focused on design. They focused on what users exactly needed. Look at what I said, not what users wanted. Okay, please try to understand. If you are going to design software, you'll need to understand this distinction. Apple did not think about what people exactly wanted. Okay, people wanted spaceships, but did Apple give them spaceships? No, they provided people what people needed. People needed compact computers that could fit in their bags. Apple designed laptops, MacBooks. Okay, it was actually Steve Jobs' vision at first to create a computer, a powerful machine that anybody could carry anywhere, which is why Apple actually, broke the whole face of digital revolution as well. Anyway, coming back to doors, when you have to explain UI UX design to a beginner, right? We always give them this example of doors. Imagine what you're going to do for this handle. You want to keep a door handle, right? Now, will you keep the door handle to be, for example, like this or this? It will depend, right? Do you need this push and this pull label on these two handles? Tell me, guys, if you see a door like this, you can see that it looks like a door. You can see that there is a metal plate there, but there is nothing written on it. Will you push it or will you pull it? This door, will you push this door or will you pull it? If you don't see push written on it, if you don't know English, you cannot read that label. Okay? If you see a door like that, will you push it or will you pull it? The first one I'm talking about, by the way. I'm talking about this one. If you don't see the label that says push on this, will you push this door or will you pull it? If you don't know English, you cannot read this label that's written here. Will you push this door or will you pull on it? This door. Everybody is unanimously saying push it, right? There's no handle. What will you pull on? Will you pull on those small rails with your fingers? No, nobody will do that. You see a door like that, you will push. And this is good design. If you have a door that cannot be pushed, okay, that has to be pulled. If you have a door like that and you have something like this on it, nobody will pull it, right? So this is thinking about design. When we start off teaching UI UX design to people, right, we always give the examples of doors. What kind of a handle will you keep on a door? Will you keep a handle that you can push and pull, or will you keep a swivel knob that can turn? Or will you not keep anything? So this is an interesting thing to have. You have doors at your home, right? Most probably all of us have doors at our home that can on one side only be pushed and from the other side only be pulled. Now think about it and tell me, why are you wasting so many handles on doors that can only be pushed? How much cost is it that we spend in our homes to keep handles on doors that can only be pushed? Do you guys understand? This is thinking about user experience. When you put, if the handle is there, then pull, otherwise push. When you put your like your brain in a position when where it is constantly thinking about design, you'll start noticing these patterns in everyday life. And that's what design thinking is about. That is what basically good designers do. Okay. So yeah, this door problem in itself, it is something that basically tutors have been using for ages to explain to people what basically good design is about. Whether you push a door or pull a door, maybe you guys have encountered those situations, right, where you're constantly pulling on a door that you basically cannot pull out. You have to push it. Then the owners, maybe of the shop, maybe of that facility, they have to use labels. Please push. Okay. And on the other side, please pull. They have to keep labels on those doors to basically tell everyone, you cannot pull on the door, you can only push it, or you cannot push the door, you can only pull it. So as a designer, you think about the possibilities of how you can make sure that you don't need labels. You don't even need to tell the users what to do. They should intuitively do what's required. So intuitive design, when you hear about intuitive user interfaces, that is what it is about. Okay. Intuitive. I don't know if that is the exact spelling. I'm using my mouse to write this down, so that's why it's a bit not so nice. I don't have my drawing pad here. So yeah, intuitive design is about that. Intuitive design is about that. Uh, so for example, in this case, you can think of a really good example that we will take on later on too. So this time I basically gave you guys an example for what? I gave you a simple example for a door. But what about simple user interfaces? There are different processes in user interface design that we undertake every time we design a software, right? So for example, let's talk about a login screen. When you have a login screen, right? Is there anyone who basically tells you where to write the email address or where to write the password? Yes, there's always a label there, right? There's always a label there that says password, that says username. And then there's also a button on the side called login. You see, in an intuitive design, user intuitively designed login screen, okay, or login screen with intuitive design. These will be the major elements. A user will not focus on any other elements unless there is a need to do that. Imagine you have a login screen like this. Okay, I think for this example to be properly explained, I need to make these properly. Imagine this is a login screen. Okay, in here there are a couple of fields. One field says username. Another field says password. And another field says reset password. And another button is there on the top that says login. And another button in here just exists there. Okay, there's nothing written inside of it, but it's a user field. You have a login screen like this. See, there are always levels of expertise for users as well that we talk about in user experience design. There are beginner users or newbie users. There are intermediate or general users. So there are a couple of terms for them, okay, which is why I'm leaving it empty. And then there are expert users. Okay, so you can call the middle ones as intermediate or medium. Intermediate users. So all of this you're basically separating based on the expertise. These expert users are sometimes also called advanced users. Imagine these three levels of expertise for every single platform out there. If you ask your grandmother or grandmother to use Instagram, this is a very simple example. Imagine how they will approach the software. If you ask your grandmother to go log into the screen, will she be able to do anything to it? Tell me. I understand that like some people in here will have really good, really educated grandmothers as well. Even them, ask them to log into the screen as well. What do you guys think will happen? Will that user, they're not even newbie users, okay, they are a level beyond this as well, because they're from a age that does not use digital, that has not used digital products as much. We create these levels of expertise for our generation that is very much experienced in like exposed to these fields. Okay, now if you for example ask a user that has never seen a digital screen to log into this screen, they will not even touch. They might touch here. Okay, the touches that they make on the screen might be really irrelevant. They touch here, they touch here, here for some reason. Okay, but at the same time, if it is a intermediate user, somebody who has been on internet a lot, somebody who has seen a lot of like interfaces already, seen, used, okay, they might be able to understand that this is a button, these are some fields, okay, that need to be dealt with. You have to write something. They might spend a lot of time first clicking on this button. They'll click on login to see whether something's happening or not. Then they will start writing some things here. Okay. They'll fill all the four fields and they will kind of be just confused and they'll leave the screen. But if you have an expert user, advanced user, users like us who have used digital, not kind of seen screen, but they use digital products every single day. We basically deal with login screens and applications every single day of our life, right? We will be a bit confused, But the first thing we will question ourselves with is, do I have an account on this like website or not? If you have an account, you will write your username, you will write your password, and you will click on login, right? Even though you are confused why these two fields are there, you will not touch them. You will be able to complete the process. That's what basically is the motive. You will be able to complete the task or process, or you will be able to achieve the goal. The goal was to log in. You'll be able to achieve it. So you have designed an interface that will only work with expert users. This means the design that you have created is not intuitive. Okay. You have created a door with 5 handles. Now the user does not know which exact handle to use. You have created a door that has 5 different locks. Now the user does not know which lock to exactly unlock first before going entering the door. This is not intuitive design. Okay. Design is all only intuitive when a user does not have to think about what they have to do. Even the expert users had to think about the screen, and they had to discard these options to work with this screen properly. Okay, now let's look at this. Removing all these fields. I'm taking this login button, moving it here. I'm keeping it in the center this time. Also observe the alignment of things. Okay, so I'm keeping these two things quite close. I'm keeping login a little bit far. I'm making sure that the user fields that I have created here, okay, these ones, I'm making sure that these fields are touching the end boundaries like so. And finally, I'm making sure that login looks like a small button and not a text field. These are some design changes that I made with this small button and the screen. Now, what do you think about this particular screen? You can basically change the design of this login a little bit as well. Okay, keep it in a different shape and size to make it look different from the other aspects, other things. Now, for such a screen, I would argue even your grandmother would basically at least click on the relevant things. Okay, so even somebody who is a really newbie user, okay, they will understand that this field is different. By the way, for that, you'll have to kind of change the design of these input fields as well a little bit. You'll have to make them in colors that are light, okay, lighter from the background of the screen. So people, and also you'll have to kind of make sure that you're keeping a cursor there, a blinking cursor maybe, or something like that, so that when a user sees it, they automatically are prompted to click on this particular field. Okay. Now, even if it's a newbie user, they'll be prompted to write something here, write something here, and then click on this. This is the only things on the screen. Okay. The rest of the stuff, reset password or whatever it is, you have pasted them in here with a couple of other details, but you've just kept them separate out. Okay. Separate out from the rest of the things. This is the example of a very simple login screen. Okay. And if you're designing it like this, you most likely have design that is very intuitive for anyone to use, whether it's a newbie user, intermediate user, or an advanced user or an expert user. Okay. That is the kind of user interface design we always aim to achieve in our UI design. Is all of this clear to everyone? Other things that I mentioned here a little bit clearer? This login screen, actual wireframe design, we will come back to later. Okay. In that particular screen, I'll tell you what the important parts of a login screen are and what basically we do in UI design for this. I basically used this same example so that when I'm explaining the wireframe later on, that becomes easy. Okay. Typically, this is the point where I give people a break. Okay. So we'll just have a small 5-minute break. And after that, we will join again because there's a lot to cover in our session yet. Okay. So these things we have already, like some of them we have already discussed. Actually, let's do this. We'll quickly cover these couple of slides and then we will move on to the approaches part after the small 5-minute break. Okay. So the slides that are here basically are only describing what I've already taught. So the difference between user experience and user interface, that's the first thing we focus on, right? User experience will include all the things, the overall experience of a user when they're interacting with a product or a service. That's the definition as well. And that's what I've been explaining as well. It's not just how it looks like or how it feels like, it's basically how it works too. So it's all those things. Okay. So when you're interacting with a product, all of your experience is user experience. The overall experience is your user experience. How it looked like, how it felt like, that is the user interface part. Okay. And their interconnection is what we've basically mentioned as interdependence here. For the product experience to be good, you need both. You need good user interface design as well and user experience design as well. The scope and future of UI UX in tech is really immense. This is not going to be the class where I actually, actually explain to you how important it is, but I'll touch it very briefly. User interface design and experience design jobs exist everywhere. Every single company, if it has a digital interface, a website, an application, a software, they need UI UX designers. That is why you're seeing a surge of UI UX designer jobs since these last 5 years. Okay. Now, breaking into this field is a bit tough. I'll discuss that as well if you guys are interested later on. Why breaking into UI UX design is a bit tough. But there are so many jobs related to this field, one cannot even count. Okay. So, health tech, basically technology related to healthcare departments, healthcare sector, fintech, finance sector. Okay. So, fintech is basically a whole of this collection of companies, or you'd say basically a type of companies that relate that are related to finance and use technology and use applications or websites. EdTech, educational education technology. So we're doing that actually. Okay, in places where you're basically training people online, like this, like where we are doing right now, or people are consuming content, or you're creating courses for people. All of that comes in edutech as well. Application design, AR, VR design. You have, for example, AI applications basically means application design, simple application design of the AI sector. But AR, VR is also opening up new possibilities. Since AR, VR is also going mainstream now, designing applications for augmented reality and virtual reality is also something that is creating more UI UX jobs. Okay. And the reason for that is when we say somebody is a UI UX designer, okay, or user experience designer, they're people that are designing the experience. How will a user interact with this product if they are putting on um, a VR headset? ठीक है, वो एक VR headset पहन रहे हैं. What will they see? The interface that they will see in front of them. Who will design that? ठीक है? What colors will they see in front of them? Will those be colors that really hurt their eyes, because VR headsets are really close to our eyes, right? And if you're using colors that really hurt our retina, do you think like a product like that will work in real life? Definitely not. So you have to kind of be a designer. You have to be someone who understands user experience and UI design to actually design applications like that. Okay. So yeah, we can have a really good discussion on how much the scope of this whole field is. But like I told you, this is a very introductory class. I don't think we can go too deeply into it. Okay. Just an introduction will be enough. And the basic jobs that exist related to this are UI designer, user interface designer, UX designer, user experience designer. UI designer is a very specific job wherein you will use tools like Figma, like Adobe Illustrator to design what the application will look like, right? But user experience design is a role that is more general. It's a more generalist role wherein you might be asked to design the interfaces as well, or talk to the customers as well, or to create the overall product experience as well. UX researcher. This is a job that exists in some startups and in very extensive companies or very giant companies that have their own UI UX teams. UX researcher is someone who researches whether a product is actually going to work in the real field as well. Okay, so you're designing an app. Will this app actually work with people? Will people like to use it or not? Will people find it useful or not? So all of these things come in UX research, and UX researcher is the role that does it. Product designer, somebody who designs the overall look and feel of a product, is called a product designer. Okay, and a product designer is responsible for ये आपकी login screen है, इस पर कौन से colors होने चाहिए, इस पर कौन सी typography होनी चाहिए, what vibes should it send, ठीक है? Then you have product manager as well. It's basically a somebody who basically handles a lot of product designers or UI designers or UX designers. Product manager is responsible for the management side of things. आप एक team इकट्ठा करोगे to design an actual a product, ठीक है? And product managers need a lot of they need a lot of information for the actual product design, basically. Okay, they need a lot of information of UI design as well, UX design as well, and the tools that are needed to exactly implement that in real life. So yeah, there is a lot of different roles that UI UX designers can fit in, right? So this, talking about the scope, can happen in some other session in which we can break down what exactly UI UX designers will do in a particular sector. And if you guys are interested someday, we can do this again as well. But yeah, good design we've already talked about. If you're designing good applications, it will drive business. Okay, people will come for your design. And basically, if you're designing good interfaces, good experiences, users will be satisfied more. Accessibility will be there, which basically means more people can use or access your systems, whether it is newbie users, intermediate users, or expert users. Then enhanced conversion rates, more new people, new customers will come and join your product, and reduced development costs. If you're, for example, creating good design, you're following a good design process, the development time reduces down, right? Which ultimately means the cost needed to develop a product also reduces down. Is everyone here?